you like 2.5% or 3% on it that would, you could borrow to pay for those types of costs. So it's up to you, just how quickly we're gonna move forward. If you hired these guys and didn't do anything, you wouldn't get a bill from them until, you had a financing that closed. If you hired these guys and did a lot of work, and asked them to do that bond ordinance and then the other things, you still wouldn't get a bill from them until you had financing close. They understand that there's no money involved, no money available and on hand to pay for these costs until the financing closes, and they're fine with that.
If we were to engage somebody and then not do a large project and not borrow money from SRF, where are we at then?
So you engage them and you don't do anything, don't close a loan, then most of them, I can't guarantee all of them, but most of them would say there's no fee involved. If you engage them and they did some work for you, you know, say that bond ordinance is good for 5 or 6 or 7 years.
Yeah.
If you're gonna do a project the next 5 or 6 or 7 years, you could use the same bond ordinance that you adopted today. You know, it's not like there's an expiration period on it. It's gonna be good for a period of time, and they're good at that. I've got one little project that's unusual, and it's over in the eastern part of the state, and for some reason, a previous engineering firm got a project going, and there's a with bond counsel, and bond counsel sends them a bill every year annually and saying, this is where we are so far, and that's been going on for 4 years, and they're still not looking at a project. So I think that in that case, bond counsel just letting them know, hey, we're here, we've done work for you, we redo work again, this fee is gonna be part of the project. So, you know, no one's gonna come up knocking your door saying you gotta pay us today. Yeah, they wanna build a relationship with you, they wanna be here for you, they wanna do your work, and, whenever that work is. So, if that answers your question.
Yeah.
Well, I've got one more question. I don't mean to tie you up. Like
Oh, you're not timing up. I'm here as long as you want me. I'm here at 2 o'clock in the morning.
What I don't understand is the comparison of the flat rate. Let's say, you know, they charge you $15,000 for 50 hours work or for 500 hours work, whichever it takes. That's a flat rate, not to exceed what you agreed upon. You compare that to like this McKinney one that you're talking about. They're talking about $12,000 plus max plus a service fee from 3 to 5,000. Well, I guess what I'm trying to say is when you're trying to decide which is the best route to go, why is there so much difference between a flat rate and what they do, how fast they do it, compared to somebody who's, you know, I'm just trying to see where the advantage would be here.
There's not necessarily a difference in how fast they do it or anything like that. It's just when you get into hourly rates, then you know you're getting billed for the work that's actually being done. And you can look and see this is, you know, this is why it's at $5,000 because it's been this many hours from, you know, this firm. And then the reason that the cap is there is to make sure that even though, say they work, you know, $100,000 worth of work, they want to protect and make sure that the town isn't going to have to pay $100,000.
Okay, I'm just...
I mean, it doesn't really change the pace they work or anything like that. It just changes, I guess, the billing structure. I mean, what's preferred, you know, there's upsides to each, but it's kind of up to...
The proposed fee is flat 12. There's no additional service fee on that. And there's no additional service fee on the it's just 17.5 maximum and an hourly rate.
I'd make a motion we engage Rose McKinney and Evans as our bond counsel.
I'll second that motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay. Mayor's motion's been approved. Okay, do we need to talk about billing policy or have,
He's got this other thing here that we can show. This is you, and that's the availability fee program.
Yeah, it is. I got a couple things in front of you, and just generally, we'll take a lot of time.
Put your hands on that, kid.
Taking a lot of your time already. You've got a billing policy in front of you, and you've got the availability fee program in front of you. And everyone's gonna talk about the billing policy first because it's easier. And I'm not really asking you anything. The billing policy is written billing policy. Some of you may remember this from 5, 6, 7 years ago when it started. And Andy just asked me, where is this thing? And they couldn't find it any place in the books here, so I found it on my in my computer, and I kind of revised it a little bit because it's 5 or 6 or 7 years old. And then I sent it out, and Caitlin's made a few comments that I haven't incorporated in there, but I wanted to present it to you, and so you could review it and maybe get your comments to me, and we can have a revised revised billing policy for you to look at your next meeting. And the whole idea to have a written billing policy is that generally all of your billing policies seem to develop over time. You'll have one ordinance that states one thing, and then 5 years later another ordinance, another 3 years another ordinance, and sometimes those ordinances are 20 years old and they're still effective, and you may not remember them, and your building department may not be following them. So it's nice periodically to have one document that you can look at, hand new customers, have on your website, that explains all your billing policies and procedures. So one, it's uniform. You're not enforcing your billing policy discriminatorily, and that everyone knows what it is. And it's also that billing policy that the council and the clerk treasurer want to be implementing and makes sense for you. So that's the whole idea of having this. This is a draft of a slightly revised of what was done 4 or 5 years ago. I'd encourage you to look at it again, decide if this is the billing policy you want. Get to me any comments or revisions, or if you want, you can just wait until the next meeting. We can talk about what you want revised, what you don't want revised. And then, as I understand it, and then Caitlin's gonna correct me again because she's got that, is that a billing policy only has rates and charges in it that reflect the rates and charges in your rate ordinance. So it doesn't have to go through the procedure of introduction and advertising a rate hearing and having that rate hearing and then a final adoption. It can be adopted in one meeting. And she's not ahead, so I think she agrees with that. So, okay.
Yeah, so there are some issues, not with the policy itself, but looking back to the ordinances, there's some discrepancies. So there's different delinquency dates, there's different late payment charges, different times when water service can be disconnected. The billing procedure you guys got goes more into liens for non-payment, which is totally fine by statute, but not in the ordinances. So I so far have, besides what we've talked about, I don't have any issues with the policy once you guys, see what you want to change and everybody's reviewed it. But we will need to either go back and kind of piecemeal go through the ordinances, or what I think is the better idea is to kind of pass something comprehensive that would actually reflect this kind of policy if you guys like this.
So could we wrap those other issues into this?
Yes,
FTC
something,
ordinance,
an
policy,
ordinance basically reflecting what you guys have there with those changes and amending.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah, I think that's the best idea because
This is sewage.
at first when I thought it was just 1 or 2 conflicts, I thought it wouldn't be that hard, but I mean there's quite a few areas that would conflict, and I think it would get very difficult if we tried to go back and change things little by little. But ultimately it'll be you guys reviewing that policy and seeing what you want in there and what you want to change, and then it would be our job to draft ordinances reflecting those changes.
Okay.
So I think in the next meeting, I'll look over a little more. I think I have most of the big differences, but then I'll have your all's preferences, and we can go from there.
Sounds good.
The next item is you have both a water and a sewage availability fee. And an availability fee is, people, it's very confusing. What's a connection fee, what's a tap fee, what's a capacity fee, what's an availability fee? And in my simple mind, the way that I think of it is that a tap or a connection charge is for the cost of actually physically making the tap or the connection. and those costs are supposed to be, cost-based. You know, what's the actual cost to make that connection, what's the actual, cost of making that tap? You don't make taps or connections here. You have somebody else do it for you to inspect it. But you've got a charge in there for doing that, and you know, I've got an attorney here, I'm not gonna say what's legal, what's not legal, but I think you're in danger of someone challenging that charge. So what typically is allowed is an availability fee. And what availability fee is a charge for someone to buy into the system. So someone that hasn't been on the system before wants to connect to the system, and you're saying, okay, but everybody that's been in the system has paid for the system to date. And you know, we've been doing this for 10 or 15 years, now you wanna come in and take all the benefit of what's been paid for. Well, that's fine, but you're gonna have to buy into it, we're gonna give you a charge for that. Cicero does this, I think that Arcadia does this, certainly Carmel does this, and Zionsville does this. It's a very common type of buying fee. Some have availability fees and for park departments. I mean, that's very common throughout the United States to try to get money in for park development. But what this is the calculation of the maximum amount that you could charge for that buy-in fee, for that availability fee. And what, and my readings of the court decisions so far are on that. Again, I'm talking about legal things, and there's an attorney in the room, and she's so much better at that than I am, is that you can't double bill somebody for something. So if any part of that charge is already included in your rates and charges for service, then you can't bill it to them as an availability fee. So I go through this process where you figure out what the actual cost of your system is, and then we back out the debt, because the debt's being paid for in current rates, and then we come up with the cost of the system that's already been paid for, okay? And that is something we can bill out for. Here's what's your pro rata share of that cost of the system that's already been paid for, and that's what that availability fee is. Now I come up with an amount here for the water and the sewer, and I'll look at the sewer first. And then what I generally recommend is that you look at some percentage of that. And I always also recommend that you kind of get an idea of what your neighbors are charging. You don't want your availability fee to be so large that it causes people to take their development down the road to Arcadia. You don't want that. So what I have here is in one of the final pages, calculation of alternate utility availability fees, and I'm showing you the maximum fee, which is for the wastewater of $12,000. Maximum fee for the water is $1,700. And then I'm showing you at 90% what that be at 75%, 80, 70, 60, and you might come up with a fee. You know, one easy thing to do would be say, hey, look at maybe $1,500 for wastewater and maybe $1,000 for water, or something in that range, or even it could be more. We could do a study to see what your surrounding communities are charging, so you can charge them something that's similar to them or less than them. But I want you to look at that and kind of go through it and think about it, and then maybe at the next meeting we can decide what you want to do or talk about it. Certainly this is not a good thing to talk about with Andy not here, because certainly Andy's going to have an opinion. But also, as we talked about how the building policy and procedure would not require that standard process to go forward for a new rate and charge. This is a new rate and charge. And so you'd have to introduce an ordinance, and you'd have to advertise that ordinance, you have to set a public hearing, and then you'd have to, after the public hearing, you could adopt it. I think it's on 2 readings of that. So the other thing we want to look at, and ask Caitlin to do that, is your current rates for sewage and water on a tap and connection charge, and make sure it's not nuclear, to see if we just need to put in a tap fee, a connection fee that is for the actual cost of making that tap connection, and if the tap connection is paid by somebody else, and all would be an inspection fee. And I think that's something we need to look at in your normal rate ordinances too, so that is that's clean. You don't want any problems with that in the future. Your attorney's gonna have a lot to say about that, and what is prudent and what may not be prudent, and what might cause you problems in the future. So that is certainly something we want to kick down the road to the next meeting. I want you to have a chance to look at that and think about that. I want to know if you want me to put together information for you on what alternate available fees are in other cities and towns in the county. You might have an interest in that, to see what everybody else is charging. So you have to let me know.
I'd be interested to see what some of the surrounding communities
Okay, I
charge
mean,
and how they're
that's not hard to
set
do,
up,
and let me put that together for you.
just around the size of town. I know you get into big cities, there are a lot more than smaller communities.
Just want me to look at who's in the county and what they're charging.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
Yeah.
Please.
Okay. Hired bond counsel. You want me to notify the bond counsel firms that were not selected, that you hired other people? Be a courtesy.
If they're waiting for the answer.
Yeah. And what I'd probably just say is that Bose McKinney was selected and they received quotes for between $12,000 and $22,000 for bond counsel services. I wouldn't go through and tell everybody what everybody else quoted, but just tell them what the range was and what the answer was. So that was not selected. Okay. Did you want me to ask the bond counsel for her bond ordinance for you, or you want to wait until the next meeting to talk about that?
I think up to them. I mean, I feel like if we want to go ahead and get started, and
You said would be applicable for 5 years
Wow,
or
yeah.
something. I mean,
10 years.
surely in that
Yeah.
period of time, whether we do something right now or not, we will do a project.
You'd have a project, yeah. I would think so.
And if we do this project, the sooner we can get things done, the
Yeah.
better, I would
Yeah.
think. So
The,
I would,
The other thing to think about is if you're hiring trad to do things, at some point they're gonna have a bill, and,
Sure.
you know, you're
Matter
doing,
of fact,
if you do or don't do investigative work, you know, there's gonna be a bill there.
there's,
At some point, you're gonna issue debt to.
the smoke testing they've already done, as I understand, has been on their bill for that. So we already have some costs involved in it. That's, no. Yeah. So do we need a
So we
motion
need
for
a
that?
motion on that?
I think typically that would be something that bond counsel, that's
gonna
part of their
draft it and
role,
present it.
that's,
Yeah.
they've been
Just
selected.
Tell me to get started.
Yeah, we'll tell them to get started,
Okay.
and, yeah.
You got a meeting coming up in a month, or 25th, or 26th.
Yeah, that's something that would be authorized by hiring as bond counsel, so.
Okay. And what they'd probably also do is get you an engagement letter. If I ask them to prepare the bond ordinance for that meeting, they would do that while they're waiting for you to sign their engagement letter. Yeah. And the engagement letter would have to be reviewed by your attorneys anyway to
We
make
can
sure.
do that.
Excellent. Thanks.
That's all I got, unless you want.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Glad to be here.
That's all I have. Chuck and I had everything that I had for you to do tonight.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anything you wanna add, Caitlin? Anything at all?
Not right now. Just in general, or about his
Well,
part?
does anyone
Because-
have any questions for Caitlin pertaining to?
Pertaining to what we just discussed?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so.
Now, will this new billing procedure apply to those that are already in arrears?
I would think so.
question.
Once you set new policy, you know, anyone that's already in arrears would be, it's not gonna be totally, it's gonna be incredibly different, I guess what I'm saying,
Okay.
because you're still, it still complies with state statutes, current state statute is,
Yeah.
and she's gonna correct me again,
Okay.
60 days to, after 60 days you can file a sewer lien, you're probably doing something close to that anyway.
Okay.
It's just setting a procedure in
So
to
they'd
make
have
sure
an
you're
additional
treating-
60 days once we passed it.
I would have to look into how that would apply, the new rates
Okay,
to people already in arrears, but I could look into that. Get you guys an answer.
okay. Thank you.
And we've already reviewed,
Some of them.
Yeah, we've reviewed that. We've reviewed the availability fee program. So any questions you guys have about it, just feel free. We'll look at them, take all the questions, answer everything at the next meeting. So
The real benefit of the billing policy is just consistency.
Yes.
Everyone knows what the procedures are, policies are, and they're enforced the way that everyone understands them. And everyone's enforced the same way for every person. You know, one person's not treated one way, one person's not treated, which can cause problems.
Well, Steve, we want to thank you for coming in and being so thorough.
Good to see you.
And I'd like to thank you on behalf of Triad for representing me.
I'll make sure I tell Louise.
We appreciate you, Steve, we really do.
are these the?
That's right.
Be in bad
Tell me
shape.
what the one that's selected.
Rose McKinney, it's the one right there close
Okay,
to you.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Corner. There you go.
All right.
She's taking your stuff.
I know. I'll give it right back. Just looking over.
Sure, tell Louis we'll have to get some emails.
I will do that. Yeah.
Doesn't want to interviews.
I'll see if he pays it.
He's interviews.
Yeah, those rates. I wanna see what those rates are, yeah. I wanna see what it should be built out. Didn't you say rates are the back?
Take a break, send me the invoice.
Be safe,
Thank
Steve.
you. I'll be in touch.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
What is RDC meeting?
Redevelopment Commission.
Oh, do we want to talk about that?
Do we have to advertise, do we have to have a meeting for the RDC separate from the town?
Yes.
Do
Okay.
we?
Yes.
So we need to,
And it needs to have public notice as well.
okay.
So
And this
we
is
need to
just,
set up a time.
And I've emailed with Jennifer about this. I had a few other questions for her about the RDC in general. And I'm guessing, since you said organization meeting, it's the first meeting of the year,
Right.
first RDC.
Yeah.
So there are certain things that have
Electoral
to be done
officers.
there.
Yeah.
I talked to her, emailed about that. It does need to be separate, even if it's just right before a meeting. And there does have to be public notice. So
What's the advertisement requirement on that?
So you want to advertise that for the next meeting?
we have a workshop
Well,
before the
Oh,
next
yeah.
meeting.
So it would have to be
Probably
after
the first meeting in, April,
your original meeting.
which would be the 9th? April 9th.
April 9th?
Yeah, does that work?
What night's on that? What day?
Tuesday, second Tuesday.
Yeah, we'll just do it.
Be a board meeting
Yeah,
night. Usually do it early.
just do it. Like at 6:30 or 6:45 or something.
How long does it take usually?
No. I don't know what we're gonna do.
I mean, just an
It's just
hour
a-
meeting or
no,
a half hour meeting?
No, it's just a perfunctory thing to elect the new officers.
Like 15 minutes?
Yeah, pretty much.
6:45?
6:45 on the 9th. We'll have Jennifer know about that.
I forgot what day it was, forget.
9th.
April 9th.
Okay, is there any more questions concerning old business?
Did
Is
we
anyone
decide,
that-
did we decide how long ahead before we,
Do what?
how long a notice do we have to give before the meeting? 48 hours?
Jennifer knows.
Okay,
I'm looking into it
It's-
right
okay,
now, but it's
all right.
Yeah, she knows how long to have before.
yeah, I've talked with her. I think she knows all the requirements and a few other things I want to make sure we're done with the first meeting of the year. So
Yeah.
Okay, Caitlin, while you're doing that, if there's no more questions concerning old business, we'll go to new business.
Any update on animal control?
They're still working on it.
Still working on it. Murray, do you have something?
Andy has mentioned here, there's a marina that's going in. And it's basically across 19 from the ball diamond or,
The old Barton Bob's.
yeah, Barton Bob's. And, it abuts town property, but it's out in the county. He said he thinks the developer, or the owner of that would be receptive to the idea of voluntary annexation. And I think that'd be a really good idea to capture that tax revenue from that property. We're already gonna be running utilities there anyway. So, I don't know what we need to do as far as drafting a letter soliciting the property owners, see if they would go ahead and sign on for annexation.
I can look into that process for you guys, detail out everything that would need to be done.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Also, I forget the gentleman's name that bought that. And he was talking about, if I remember, he was talking about going on well water.
No, they're doing
Are they going on city water?
Town water, yeah.
I think the gentleman's name was Doug White, wasn't it?
I think
That's
so.
That sounds familiar, but I'm not sure who that.
He's been in our office a couple of times looking at the drainage plan down there because of the county regulated drain. I think
So
it's
they're
Doug
gonna-
White.
They're gonna go on water and sewage both.
Yes. Yeah, I believe he already has some plans drawn out for his water and sewer connections, and those type of things already. Yeah.
If they were in the annexation of the city, we'd get tip money from that, wouldn't we?
If we included it, if we expanded our TIF area
But either way,
to,
we're gonna get
That's
the
what
tax-
To capture
annexation
it.
We're
would
gonna
be.
get the tax revenue from it, no matter what.
In the TIF district.
we'd have
All
to
TIF
expand
district
the,
does is pull that money and reserve it for development in that district. So the town's still gonna benefit whether it's in that district or not. Do we need a motion for you?
Yeah, we need a
Draft
motion.
something up and we'll
I can just-
approve it and send it.
I can just look into it for you guys.
All right, let's do that.
And then just kind of inform you on the findings, and then you
Then
guys,
make a
we can make a
motion.
motion what you wanna do from there, but
All right.
I can just look into it and go through the process. And also, I looked into the notice for the RDC, it would be the same notice that she usually posts for these kind of meetings, so 48 hours.
okay.
And I think she probably usually posts it here, I'm assuming. Whatever she usually
I think
does, it's
she
just the
sticks
same
it
kind
in
of
the
notice.
paper, I think.
So,
Am I
yeah.
right?
So the next thing, I don't know if it's, I guess this would have been old business, very old business, is the, speed limit on all that.
I was gonna say,
Yeah, that was one thing I wanted to talk about. So I found some examples that I sent to Toby. Have you sent any of those on?
I haven't, I was just gonna relate to them tonight.
Okay.
At the meeting.
And those are very complex ones, and those are just ones I could find that were publicly available online. Big projects in Carmel dealing with all the roundabouts and things like that. Now, what we would need to do here would be a traffic and engineering study, so it would need to be done by an engineer or an engineering firm, but it would not be that kind of scope at all. I've talked to a few people, just contacts I know, it could be around $1,000 possibly, depending, they would have to, of course, exactly see where it would be, what kind of study we need. The only examples I could find were just huge, massive projects. It's not what we need here at all, but it does have to be a traffic and engineering study.
So you were able to find a definition of what that means, because you said 25 miles an hour doesn't require that, but 20 would.
Yes, the statute says in an urban, in an urban district, and there's a statutory definition of an urban district that we would once again want probably an engineering firm to double check, even though this strip meets that definition. You can't drop it to 30 if it's not an urban district at all. And you can drop it to as low as 20 in an urban district, which I'm thinking just off the top of my head would apply here. But anything less than 25 needs that study.
Okay.
There's nothing in the statute defining it, but it's just commonly done by engineering firms.
What's the speed limit out there is 30 now, right?
Yes.
Let's just buy 30-mile-per-hour signs and put them back up there.
Make our signage to reflect the.
Yeah,
ordinance
because
as it
it's
stands
not
right now.
gonna, what, you post at 20, they're still going 40.
You don't have a.
Exactly.
Nobody's gonna enforce it.
Nobody's gonna enforce it anyway,
Nobody's gonna stop them
so,
for speeding.
The
Yeah.
same problem we have on Central, it's 30.
yeah.
And-
So
and I'm
just,
telling
so
you,
just
why-
change the sign so that we're in compliance and let it go.
Might as well pull that stop sign down there.
On Central, you might as well pull it out, nobody ever stops.
I do.
I do too.
There's very few, I'm telling you, we sit there and go, okay, there goes another one.
If people aren't gonna drive 25, they're not gonna drive 20.
No.
You know?
No.
So I think,
I'll just tell
I
you, you
personally
need to
think
change the
that,
signs to what-
unless there's another reason why we wanna change it to 20.
Well, I just have a question, because part of the road is 20 and part is 30. On
Wait a
both
minute,
Walnut
wait a
and
minute.
Indiana.
I was talking. You're out of order.
I'm sorry.
I don't understand, what, is there another reason why we wanna change the 25 to 20 other than the,
Other than to match the sign. So if it's too complicated to match the sign to the ordinance, just match this, or the ordinance to the sign, then match the sign to the ordinance.
what, do you think that it would behoove us to talk to the sheriff department?
No.
Yeah.
No,
You don't think it'd do any good?
no.
They were here this morning.
They already won't.
That was one trip, and then they'll be back tonight, after the second trip.
No, they were sitting out this morning watching the buses and stuff. They were.
It's probably really doing their computer work.
I'd say put it back to what,
Yeah. We'll just
what
make the
originally
sign
was
reflect
30
the
mile an hour,
ordinance.
you know, being that we contract with the Hamilton County Sheriff's Department, they won't write any tickets
Yeah.
on ordinances, so that's not
So-
a state
They'll write
statute.
down to 30, but they won't write below that.
Right.
Technically, you can decrease it in an urban
won't
district
enforce
to
the
They won't
town.
enforce a town.
25 without doing
Correct.
that
They
study.
can't write below
Yeah.
30.
I would still
But there's-
advise
I
doing a
was-
study, but I mean, technically, the statute says.
I
The
know
ordinance already
Andy and
says
I, we
30.
were just asking, because part of the street is 20 and the other part's 30.
Yeah, we'll just
It's
not
not-
change anything. I don't think it's worth messing with.
So
No.
that was why we were wondering if we could just set it to the street all at once.
No, just make the signs
But if
reflect
it's gonna
what
be
the
I would
ordinance says.
$1,000
Yeah, I
a
can't, I
piece.
can't really advise to do that with what the statute says.
So do we need a motion to change it back to 30, or is that just something?
That, we haven't changed it.
Just put new
Yeah.
Put new signs.
Leave well enough alone.
Yeah,
Take a sign,
that'll work.
make them all the same. They're all gonna speed no matter what.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yes.
Okay,
exactly.
go ahead, Murray.
Ding, ding, ding.
Okay, Murray,
No,
let's keep it down, let's keep it down. We're still in a town board meeting.
For several years, we've been maintaining a property down here on Railroad Street. We've incurred a lot of costs along with that, including tearing down a house, going through the process to condemn it, tear it down. And, I don't know where we're at on all that and what we need to do, but I know there's a mechanism in which we could take ownership of that property. I think we need to do that.
I think you need to look into it, because I think we do own it.
No, we do not.
I thought we were
absolutely
looking
do
into
not.
owning it last
We
year
were
with
looking
the.
into it, but it's never been.
I made a
nothing's ever
motion that
happened.
we move forward on that and get it
Yeah.
in our name, whatever we have to do legally, because we paid to have the house demoed and the property cleaned up, and
Yeah.
it's been maintained by.
Yeah, we've
mowing
had
and
it.
different
I think
things
So-
and things, and-
I would need more information.
Is it?
I think
Again-
the clerk has a lot of information.
Okay, that would be great. I can
that
get with
should have been
her.
filed
Yeah.
that wasn't necessarily, or.
So you say,
Property taxes?
Who's paying the
We have
tax?
liens on it.
I don't know
But
that.
we
So there's
have-
We don't
liens
pay
on
the
it.
taxes on it, we have liens on it.
But what I'm saying is there's still property tax on that property, and it could be sold in a county auction for no
But the
property
town
tax
can,
being
but the
paid.
town can take ownership of it because we have a lot invested in it with the liens that we
No,
have.
not if it's sold in a county tax sale.
Well, the town would
You
get
can
paid
be
for our
on there
liens.
as a lien, and those taxes have to be, and what they owe you
They
has
have
to
to-
be paid
Right.
by the person who buys it,
Right.
Well,
But that
if
doesn't
we
mean
got our
you
money
own that
back out of
property.
it, I wouldn't care.
because I know we had that issue when we bought our place.
Sure.
There was a lien from Atlanta for you guys cleaning up the mess Baker's left.
Yeah, yeah.
And all they did is shove it in the barns for us to clean up.
so
Thank
there's
you very
a
much,
property
but
that the town
my
does not
point is, we had
own,
to pay you
Right.
but
over
there's
$1,500
liens on it.
for
And you guys
dozing
have
it
been
into the
paying for
barn.
the upkeep?
Yes,
Okay.
and we tore down a house on the property too.
Yeah.
It was-
Okay,
Yeah,
It was a bad deal.
so look into the process.
Which house
it was a tornado hit.
It's where
us.
Nick's
Let's-
rental was.
Down behind the duplex there at the railroad tracks.
That one that got hit by the tornado?
Down here on Railroad,
Railroad and
the
Kaufman.
one that's no longer there.
So do we have a proposal on that, or is this,
The railroad.
or is this just follow-up from what we
We
already
just
done?
need to do some follow-up on it.
See what we need
The-
to
the
do.
I
last
can
thing-
bring
They
something.
can.
I can get with Jennifer. You said she has some information,
should have
the specifics, and I
the
can get
specifics
into
on our
the process
costing.
of your options.
Okay.
Mhm.
So the last thing I had, and it was something that Ms. Terry brought up here about a month or two ago, is difficulties with parking on Main, with the increased traffic in town. And I've done a lot of thinking about this and a lot of watching. And I think the first place that maybe we should start with this and then see where it goes is to make Main Street 2-hour parking. Whole thing.
It is on the north side.
I'm saying the entire thing.
Oh, the, what do
We've
you
got
think about these
increased
people
traffic
that
in
live
town.
right here?
They are not, the ordinance is written, they're not supposed to park on the street anyway, they're supposed to park out back.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
When they got a
You have
variance.
parking for them in the back?
They are supposed,
Yeah.
well, see, here's the thing, the property is supposed to have its own parking, and there's room for them to do that, but we've always just allowed them to use the town lot. But they're not even supposed to park on town property at all, as ordinance is written, but, you know, as it sits, we have a place that will allow them to park, and it's fine, so.
But most time it's not an issue. I mean,
We do have a lot of increased traffic in town though, and train's about to start up again, and they'll be going from now till Christmas, or in a few weeks until Christmas. You know,
Just
and
both sides of the road, both sides?
that's what I would say that we need to
Who-
look at
We
doing that.
proposing from Broadway to where?
you don't, and he needs to
So-
quit blowing that whistle so damn early.
It'll be
It doesn't bother me
blowing
that
at 7
much,
o'clock
I'm
in the
telling
morning
you.
tomorrow, so be prepared.
They're gonna run it at
7
7 o'clock
o'clock.
tomorrow morning and wake you
Yeah.
up.
7 o'clock,
They
that shit.
put
I'm
it
gonna,
out.
He's already up,
I
but
think we need to
every
do
morning we hear it.
Okay,
2-hour parking from Broadway to Walnut,
But, wait a
both
minute,
sides of the street.
what about those that do the train and are,
Eating lunch? Is that more than?
who's
What if
gonna,
it takes more than 2 hours to
who's
get
gonna
off?
enforce the 2-hour limit? We can
We have an
legis,
ordinance enforcement officer who is happy that she's raring to go with a chocolate steak. She's
What's our
wanting to do
limit
it.
in front of the post office?
15 minutes?
15 minutes, that would be maintained.
Because, yeah, there are times I pull up the post office.
Yeah, and
there's
we're
no
going
place
to
park because there's
differentially mark
people
those
all over the
spots. I was
place.
talking to Amy about that today. I think we're gonna paint those in red and put some better signage there so that those two spots are
There's only
better,
one spot.
better marked.
Okay,
Well,
yeah,
but
if this is
well,
something you wanna do, where are
We
we
would need to
designating the 2-hour parking?
we
What's
would
the,
need to change our ordinance,
I was gonna say, you can't just do
both
it
sides of the
without.
street, from Broadway to Walnut.
Now, does that fall under the same thing as speed limit? We have to have a traffic control engineer or
No.
anybody to do that for?
No.
Okay.
Parking schedule.
I would need all the information, specifics like what you've been talking about, where it would be. I need to look at the current ordinance,
Okay.
and then probably just propose. I could bring a ordinance amending that ordinance, since it doesn't seem like a whole new scheme or anything like
That
that.
would
So.
hurt.
What's that?
Because we're open, people start there about 6 o'clock and then we're usually done about 9:30.
that's 3.5 hours.
We're gonna make a lot of money
So-
on tickets from you, Roberta.
Well, we can make it.
Okay, are you gonna have a time limit? Is it like from this hour to this hour that parking is limited?
2 hours. and-
Because what about tonight? We're all parked out there and we've been in here for 2 hours.
no, not yet.
We're all gonna get a ticket, including you?
Not
You know what I'm
tomorrow.
saying?
Well, I parked on the railroad track.
Regardless of what, you know what I'm talking about. I understand that, but I'm just
Well, maybe,
saying
okay,
that,
maybe,
are you gonna have it like like Noblesville and other towns, it's from business hours? You know what I'm
Sure,
saying?
but
Like 9 to
but
5,
music halls open
whatever.
at
After
night.
that, it's free
train
reign.
runs at night, music hall's open at night,
Actually, train
restaurants gonna be
runs-
open at night,
Train's gonna start running morning, noon, and night.
yeah.
That's what hurts. Because it's that third train that they run on Saturday. When they do the 1 o'clock and 4 o'clock, that's fine, everybody's gone.
Right.
You know, but then they come
Right.
along with a 6 o'clock or
The dinner
a
train or
late beer
whatever.
train or whatever it is, and then they all come in and park. And we've had people come in the music hall after 3 or 4 weeks that, we couldn't find a place to park. I mean, not within
Sure.
2 blocks. And you know what I did? I went to the, well, I talked to the president of the Nickel Plate Express.
Yeah.
And I wanted to go to their meeting, but they wouldn't tell me where the meetings were, so I couldn't go. So, and she said, well, you could go out there and block them those spots off after the train, the second train leaves, and save those spots for you. I thought, why would I wanna go in the afternoon and block up the spots and then have to worry about taking them back up and,
Well, you shouldn't have to do that anyway.
no.
You can't do that either.
No.
I know, that's what she said. I said, I
You
don't
gotta
wanna
have
guess
to
if they,
figure out some kind of happy medium.
Right.
if they run a train late at night, you know, maybe
Let me
At 8 o'clock?
let me review our ordinance again, and I'll email you
Yeah.
an idea or two.
And I can
See if
bring
you come up with
something. You guys can all talk about it.
He been here 32 years.
Alright.
Is there anything else? Anybody got anything else they wanna ask or talk about?
I just got one thing that I'd like to throw out there to the board, and that is, basically approve Jennifer going ahead and looking for an assistant for the office here. At the current salary that's on the salary ordinance for her assistant. I was in here talking to her the other day, and she's keeping her head above water, but she's swamped, and she's getting ready to start a lot of the Earth Festival billing and applications going out and that type of thing.
Wow.
And she needs somebody in here,
Oh, yeah.
to help her,
It's not
you know,
hard
do whatever that she can. Actually, you know, I mean, we have it in the salary ordinance, I mean, and she being the clerk treasurer, she can actually hire whoever she wants anyway, by law. But, you know, I just like bring that up for the council's blessing for her to go ahead and look for somebody to come in here and help her, you know, not to exceed the current ordinance for that position.
What is the salary ordinance?
I'm not for sure what it is.
We probably need to review that too, similar as you said.
We did last year.
Experience that some people have.
We-
If you're gonna start with somebody that has less experience than Jennifer, we may wanna review that.
I think that, I think
Anyway,
it's the way it's worded is not to exceed.
Yeah.
There's an hourly on there, isn't there?
I think it's not to exceed like $17 an hour, so you can hire them anything under that if they can't charge over that.
Yeah.
What if you got somebody that's more experienced than Jennifer?
Not in this job.
You want that?
Then you're in the
Not
wrong
in this
town.
job in the town of Atlanta, doing Atlanta business. I'm not doubting your
And it's
qualifications at
it's
all.
only part-time.
I
So-
understand that, I'm just,
You're
sitting there saying, cut
you're
the
just
pay, cut the
being-
pay.
No,
They have
I'm
less,
not even
if
saying
they
that,
have
I'm saying we
less
just need to review
experience.
it.
I got 21 years of experience,
Do
baby.
you wanna apply?
I'm thinking
Okay.
very
She
seriously
is,
about
she's
it.
very serious.
Do it.
I'm very serious, because I'm retiring from the county
Well, that'd be good.
this year.
That'd be good.
So, I am thinking about it, just so you know.
Apply.
Don't think.
Well, I gotta retire first.
Okay, is there anything else?
Oh, yeah. This water bill we get. Notifications are on the part we turn back in.
So then you
We
forget.
tear the
those
bill
things.
off and pay it, and then we forget what notifications are. You see what I'm saying?
It's lack of space that,
Oh, change
just
it,
damn
that
water bill.
irritates the heck out of him.
That's a limitation of their software.
yeah, the software company.
Change the damn water bill, so the part we keep has the notifications set on. As far as heavy trash pickup, what's going on? In this damn website, who updates our website?
Nobody.
That
It's
thing
being
needs to be
updated, right?
updated.
It's being updated right now.
Huh?
Well, if you look at it, it hasn't been updated for a long time.
It's, I'm telling you, it's happening.
Things-
Okay, you're
things-
telling me, we're not, it's
mean,
not an
we're-
argument.
Okay,
We're
okay,
just-
hold,
we're just
we're
trying
still
to-
in a meeting here. Is there anything else anybody wanna talk about?
We're talking about it.
No, we're not
Let's
talking
talk.
about that. Now,
Why not? This is
it's
a damn board
done.
meeting. We
It
got a
is
right to
done.
talk.
Now, does anybody else have anything to
We'll-
say?
We'll pass it along.
If not,
So-
I'd like a motion
Please.
to close the board.
Wait, close the
Sign
door
the
for us.
claims.
We're not done yet.
Yeah,
Can I get a motion to
See,
sign
that's
the claims?
exactly why this damn, we need change in this goddamn board.
First of all, I don't wanna hear any more
Just
vulgarity.
I just said, I said what I
Okay.
say, freedom of speech, pal.
Okay?
I'm just saying.
You don't run the meeting, I do.
Well, you may run this meeting.
If you
but don't
got,
run
you
this
gonna
damn
talk
thing.
about something pertaining to the subject matter, fine. We're not
You're
gonna talk
trying to
about what
close,
Gad
you're
said.
trying to close a meeting when we're trying to talk, pal.
I'm not your
You don't
pal
like
Our
it,
either.
so you're
concern has
not
been
letting us
noted
talk.
and will be passed on to Jennifer, and we'll see if we can do
Please,
something.
It is-
and that's all we're asking.
I've written it down already.
But he's
It's-
wanting to
Okay,
shut us off, he wants to
but
talk.
I don't like the attitude.
I
When you
don't
ask
care.
for
I don't
something to
care.
Ma'am, I
happen,
traded off of work
we
to
ask
be here.
for something
It's
that
almost
we're
9
concerned
o'clock,
about.
and we
Don't
noted
give
your
me
complaint.
attitude.
We have noted
Just
your
like you
complaint.
made me feel, that's why I got smart with you,
I wasn't trying
because
to
I
make
do
you
have
feel-
more experience.
I don't doubt your experience. And I
I'm not
wasn't-
saying, all I'm saying
you would
is
like
if
to
you hadn't
apply
got
for
We,
that,
smart,
we want notification of things going on in this town.
you
We'd
never
like to
know
the
what's happening
hours.
until it's
What's
over.
the hours up there? A working man don't have a chance to come up here and do business.
8 to 2?
No, we
Yeah,
don't.
8
You guys are out here at 2 o'clock.
to
Yeah, that's what I
2.
said, 8 to 2.
2
Yeah,
o'clock.
who in the heck
Gets off at 2 o'clock.
gets off at
in
2
the
o'clock in the
It's a
afternoon?
good question. Our post office have the same question.
You guys should be in here at 5 o'clock, 4:30, 5 o'clock.
And
Right, 9 to 5.
Why how much, I mean, seriously,
that for the
with
last
what
couple
they're
years.
being paid? And you don't even have the hours for the working person to come in with any
And do any
concerns
business.
whatsoever.
That's what a town.
We can't get a hold of you to
board
get a
is for. We
permit.
can hear whatever you would like to talk to about.
You know, aren't you a
It's
permit
gone a
for-
long way so far.
Well, what concerns do you have? We're
The
here.
hours, number
Okay.
one. The website's never updated because I went on there a
It's being
blue
worked on.
million times. Okay, you ask a question, I'm answering it.
I understand, but we already,
Okay.
it's being worked on because it hasn't been updated in a long time. We've already established that.
the Facebook
Okay.
page does have the hours on it. The Facebook.
It does.
It does.
You're right. I didn't say it didn't have the hours.
Okay.
I said it's not updated. And it doesn't
But-
have current things
And
on
what,
it.
the hours should be posted right here.
But my
Are they?
question, my concern is that the average working person, most of us work 8 to 4:30, 9 to 5. You can't get up here and do any business with anyone because you're working. You have to take a day off or leave early, take time off of work to come up here and do any business. That upsets me. Most places have at least maybe a partial day on Saturday or one night that's extended.
One night a week.
That's
Even
all
the
we're
post office-
asking.
even the license
Compromise
breaks
so
would do
that the
that.
average person can come up, take care of their business without having to take off work.
Is
No,
anyone
my
taking
pay
it?
is just as important as anybody
Would-
else's. My
Would,
time is as
would
important.
one particular evening be better than another? If we opened one evening, would
That's
we
what I'm saying,
still,
that would
would
not
we,
matter.
st- I'm trying to answer you. Would one evening, would one evening be better than another? And if we set up one evening, would there be complaints because, oh, I'm not off that evening? I would want it another evening. You see, I don't think we're gonna be able to satisfy everybody with whatever we pick. There's gonna be somebody.
I just wanna make a comment. I don't know how, I mean, I know you don't come very often because we do, but Atlanta is under a lot of financial restrictions. There's not a whole lot of money to play with. So,
But
you
we
gotta
can-
you gotta take that in consideration.
But what they're getting paid for.
Oh, wait a minute, honey. Now, wait a minute. Now, wait a minute. I understand what you're saying. I do. Totally. Believe me. I work with this kind of stuff every day on a higher level.
Oh, thank
However,
you.
We, as residents here, are only asking for a little compromise. One day. I don't care what day it is. As long as we get one. Wait a minute. Now, you're talking about finances? Why do we have 5 instead of 3 then?
That was on
If-
the last ballot,
Yeah.
could have been voted for to go to 3 members, and
Yeah.
the people of Atlanta decided to keep it 5.
Yes,
I
did.
personally, I
And
have
I
one
did
of
not
those 2
vote
extra
for
seats,
5.
and I think
I'll
it's
tell you.
ridiculous.
Is there any
Because
other
I
business?
Pardon
personally,
me?
if we're in
You
that
can go
financial
ahead and
stress,
close.
What, yeah.
This is-
Yeah, this meeting needs to be closed. This some can be discussed at a different time. This is not appropriate time to be discussing.
When
I'd
is
like to
it?
move that we sign the claims and adjourn the meeting.
I'll say.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion.
Who seconded? Who seconded that?
We'll discuss this in the next meeing where tempers aren't so hot. and
Thank
can
you.
Keep it.
They're always gonna be high.
they're gonna be high.
Oh, my goodness.
You know, that's the one thing why I didn't care for Andy, because of his smart aleck
Happening right now.
attitude.
Oh.
I'm willing to talk,